Nasty patty? More like the delicious patty. Oh my god. This episode of SpongeBob SquarePants sucks. Here are the reasons why I hate this episode in my opinion. As the episode starts on a dark and stormy night at Bikini Atoll, the French narrator is reminded of the time when Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob thought they murdered a health inspector, and decides to tell the story. One bright sunny morning at the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob is cooking and Mr. Krabs is having a money bath as their health inspector arrives for a surprise inspection. Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob to get him one of everything on the menu, which he does. After a few dishes, he orders one ordinary Krabby Patty before he can pass judgment. Meanwhile, a television report reveals that an imposter is passing himself off as a health inspector conning restaurants in order to get free food. Outraged at the prospect of giving away free food, Mr. Krabs believes that the one in their venue is not genuine and schemes to play a nasty prank on him. He and SpongeBob concoct the nasty patty using volcano sauce, seahorse radish, and toenail clippings. For good measure, SpongeBob drops it in the toilet and Mr. Krabs dries it with his gym socks. However, before the health inspector could consume it, a fly goes into his mouth, causing him to choke and spill the patty on the floor. He then slips on the patty and hits his head on the table, knocking him out, and the fly comes out of his mouth. As SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs enjoy watching him suffer from the kitchen, thinking he already ate it, another TV report comes on and says the imposter has been arrested. His picture is then shown, revealing him to be a different individual. Realizing the inspector in the restaurant was real, and believed that their patty killed him after noticing his unconscious body, SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs begin to panic and blame each other. Mr. Krabs ultimately decides to take the body out and bury it so that nobody would discover what they did. SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs take the health inspector out to the top of a hill and quickly bury him. In the process of doing so, the health inspector, who begins to regain consciousness, gets hit in the head by a large rock SpongeBob dug up. The police then show up, offering to take them back to the Krusty Krab. Then it starts to rain, causing the dirt covering the health inspector, who was buried upright, to turn to mud and the health inspector slides back down the hill. Mr. Krabs has SpongeBob put him in the trunk of the police car with a shovel. On the way back to the Krusty Krab, Mr. Krabs tells SpongeBob to bring the health inspector to the back door and put him in the freezer, using shovel as code for the body. SpongeBob thinks he is talking about the actual shovel and attempts to ask him what he wants him to do with the inspector, nearly revealing what they did. Mr. Krabs cuts him off and makes it look like he was asking about bottles of soda, which makes the cops suspicious. Back at the restaurant, SpongeBob tries to take the body out back and hide it in the freezer. However, the back door is locked, leaving SpongeBob to carry on his most difficult task. He marches through the front door with the body stuffed inside his hat, making him lose his balance as he struggles to walk over to the kitchen door. The officers ask Mr. Krabs about SpongeBob's strange behavior, only for him to attempt to stall them and bribe them with money. The officers are then called through their walkie-talkies and receive a sudden report about two people burying a body on the hill on Shallow Grave Road, obviously Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob with the health inspector. As they are about to leave, one of the cops asks for a soda and Krabs quickly hands it over. But then the cop wants ice as well and Mr. Krabs grows really nervous, prompting the officer to go inside the freezer and get the ice herself. Mr. Krabs freaks out, barricades the door, and makes excuses about not having any ice. The officer simply shoves him aside and she about to get the ice herself, when Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob confess that they have committed a murder and say the body has been hidden in the freezer. Ice is just a myth. When the police opens the freezer, however, they discover nothing and deem it as a hoax. One of the officers jokingly suggests that the health inspector became a zombie and walked out if he was killed and hidden there in the first place. Soon after, the health inspector shows up and the terrified officers savagely attack him, only stopping after they realize he is not zombified. The health inspector informs Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob that they have passed the test. They all go to have Krabby Patties to celebrate, and the inspector is hit by the door. The narrator ends the episode by deeming the characters to be idiots. And that's how the episode goes. I don't know who likes or hates this episode. So I'm gonna leave it be. Screw Nasty Patty. And screw Little Yellow Book. Growth Spout is 500 million times better than Nasty Patty. End of rant.